Joining me now is Dr. Sarah Lewis from Penal Reform Solutions and Steve Gillen from the Prison Officers Association. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Dr. Lewis, I'll just start with you. You've worked in reform for a long time. Would you like to see more of this happen? Is this what prison should look like?
Absolutely. I think I've spent a lot of time in Norwegian prisons and visited over about 100 prisons now. And I think the most effective aspects of practice is those that are around principles of normality, which is about giving people the skills and the resources to cope when they get released so they don't create future victims.
But we heard in Catherine's report there, 11.6 million. That's a lot of money. That's not sustainable, is it? Can't be replicated.
Again, an argument that gets talked about in terms of the high security in Halden prison in Norway. A lot of money's gone into that, but their argument is if we can invest in people, that allows us to be able to invest in the community and also to reduce future victims. So I think it's worth the investment.
And Steve, just bringing you in here, do you think it's realistic, given your experience with some of the women that you have dealt with in the prison service, should they be in a place like Bella?
Well, there's actually a couple of issues here. Starting with the prisons minister, I think he has got a vision and he needs time in order to deal with it. Yeah, you mentioned Manchester. You could replace Manchester for Wormwood Scrubs, Liverpool, any inner city prison. There's a real crisis going on and they've inherited that crisis. In Scotland, they have tried HMP Bella. I think it's a different approach. One thing I would say, I worked with female prisoners a long time ago at Bulwood Hall, which is now closed. I think we do need a different approach to imprisonment in the UK. And that's why my union has said all along that we need a royal commission in order to look at what we actually want from our prisons, not just in the short term, medium term, but long term. You can't build your way out of a crisis. So we have got to try, perhaps, that Scottish model. And obviously the jury will be out. But I would say 98% of prisoners do get released back into the community. And if we want to stop more victims, we want to try something different, because locking people up and throwing away isn't the answer. And
Steve, we just got a couple of glitches on the line there. I just wanted to bring in Dr. Lewis on that point. Do you think that the public will accept that, though? Does that look like justice? Does that sound like justice if you've been a victim of something horrible?
I think for me it's about listening to people and having a really inclusive approach, and I absolutely agree with Steve that we need to really think about it in terms of what we want our prisons to be and what's the purpose of our prisons, but also what kind of culture do we want, because I think there's lots of reasons of why we need reform. We need it for staff, in terms of our staff. We need it for the people that are there, for them to address their trauma and be good neighbours when they get out. And I think, you know, from a victim's perspective, we work a lot with victims and we have victims on our team as well. There's something about listening to them and keep getting them involved so they feel part of it, rather than it's just another thing that's done to them. So I think a really inclusive approach is important.
Steve, I'm bravely going to try and bring you in again. Do you think that victims are getting a raw deal here then?
Victims should always come first. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I said that at the very beginning. I know the link isn't that great. But if you just bear with me for a second, victims should always come first, third, quite frankly. But we've got to have an adult conversation about what we want from our justice system, because it's totally broken at this moment in time. You know, you started off the clip with the Manchester riots back in 1990. There was only 40,000 prisoners back then. We've now got double that amount of prisoners, 87,000. It needs to be a total rethink, and we need to take the British public on that journey so that they see that there could be an alternative to prison, save the taxpayer a lot of money as well, and reduce criminality so there's no victims. So I think that can be achievable, and I hope that James Timson has that vision, because I think he's a sensible man, and I look forward to working with him going forward to finding those solutions.
And Dr. Sarah Lewis, you were nodding along there. How do you bring the public with you? Because there is an appetite for punishment. People want to know that justice has been done. And if you're a victim of crime, as I said, you want to see some sort of punishment. And if people look at Bella, they might not see that as punishment.
I think there's something there about crime and the emotive and the emotional aspect of crime. And I think there's something about we need to understand the people that are in prison. We need to understand their stories. And a lot of them have been victims in their own right, and understanding that it's not necessarily the fact that you know, we've got victims in the community and we haven't got any victims in prison. We've got a lot of people who are experiencing a significant amount of trauma. So it is about understanding and including people who are victims. But I think from our campaigning that we do and raising awareness around our kind of Justice 2.0 campaign, when we talk to the public and we talk about the reasons why we do what we do, there's a lot of people that are really supportive of what we do. And I think there's something about how we educate people and how we talk about this kind of issue, because it's so important.
Dr. Sarah Lewis, thank you very much there, and Steve Gillen as well from the Prison Officers Association. Thank you.